Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here at the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your Planning Outlook video on Friday the 7th of December. Over this weekend we'll see a push of colder northerly winds come down across the country. Briefly much colder air with freezing levels dropping towards around 600 metres in northern Scotland. And then as we go into the start of the new week, temperatures will tend to lift again as the airflow turns more south to southwesterly. It looks fairly unsettled in the second half of next week as low pressure systems will take hold and cycles of freeze and thaw are likely on the higher mountains. Let's have a look at temperatures then, and this is the 850 millibar level. That's currently at around 4,000 feet. It will lift a little bit from day to day, but gives us a useful steer of the temperatures on the higher mountains, starting with Saturday, and it's around -1, -2 on those higher tops in Scotland, around freezing or just above on the high tops of England and Wales. Running through into Sunday, you'll see how the darker blues push down into northern Scotland, with those freezing levels dropping then for a time. Temperatures on the highest summits not far off -5 at this stage. Take that forwards into Monday, and that colder air just gets shoved away a little bit further eastwards, and freezing levels will tend to rise from the west, although it'll be a slow process across much of Scotland, the central and eastern highlands likely staying frosty from the glens upwards almost much of the day. By the time we get through into Tuesday, though, a more widespread push of milder air comes in from the south-southwest, and freezing levels are likely to lift again above the higher tops. Onwards just through into midweek and beyond, you'll see how temperatures come back down a little bit as cooler air off the North Atlantic comes in, and I think that overall theme then of cycles of freeze and thaw on the higher Scottish mountains is likely. The higher tops of England and Wales perhaps more often just above freezing point, and many of the lower slopes in Scotland too, often above freezing. These are your synoptic charts for the next few days, and for Saturday, low pressure is towards the north. There's another area of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. It's a windy day, widespread upland gales for England and Wales. Less windy across the Highlands, the wind's dropping through the day. Rather messy with areas of showers, some more organised rain pushing in off the Atlantic, more affecting parts of Wales, northwest England, and into western Scotland perhaps just later in the day, with some rain setting in, I suspect, as the afternoon goes on. Now for Sunday then, that's where we get the colder push of northerlies. We've got a few showers around locally, banding together perhaps around Irish Sea coast, North Wales, just clipping the Western Pennines and Lake District, and a few snow showers western Scotland too, maybe a few into the northern Cairngorms, but for many places a good amount of sunshine, cloud breaking towards some higher tops. But a cold day, in exposure to the wind, those wind chill values will be quite significant. Briefly higher pressure is in charge through into Monday, so a frosty start to the morning, some patches of fog at low levels, uncertainty to what extent banks of low cloud will still cap the higher slopes. I suspect some areas will stay shrouded, other areas may well break up, so a little bit variable. Most places dry. We've then got a front coming back in from the west to give the risk of some snow on higher areas turning to rain or drizzle at lower slopes with time. That front passes northeastwards and weakens, becomes an occluded feature, and then there's further fronts edging in across Ireland into Tuesday. The wind strengthening as south-southwesterlies, and that's where the milder air is pushing in. The risk of wind strengthening towards gale force, low cloud becoming extensive, and some rain turning persistent across western mountains in particular. Northern Scotland doing the best for cloud breaks to higher tops. Now, confidence of absolute detail and timing becomes low into midweek, but it's a general south by southwesterly, so again you could suggest that northern Scotland fares best for the highest cloud breaks. I think there'll be a lot of low cloud covering many of the hills though through midweek, and we're watching then for deeper areas of low pressure spinning up from the southwest as we head into the second half of the week to bring more widespread rain and gales. So we take a step back and look at the bigger picture as we go through the second half of the week. Here's the deep area of low pressure that was shown on the previous chart. That, by the time we get towards Friday, becomes a general area of low pressure, according to this model, centred more toward the northwest. There's a risk of a more active low that passes more broadly across the country, but the general view is one of being pretty unsettled, with gales frequent for periods as we head towards the weekend. Low pressure is in charge then through this time. We've got some quite cold air that's stored up towards the northwest of the British Isles. The darker blues on this chart around Greenland and the North Atlantic, so we need to watch for freezing levels dropping through this period. You may notice the 528 line, which if you're an avid forecast watcher is a useful indicator for the prediction of snow. Once that gets into the picture, that is one that indicates snow potentially to some lower levels and over the hills particularly. The 528 represents thicknesses at 500 millibars, and that's, again, as we talk about with the 850s, add a zero, you've got the height above sea level in decameters. It's just one of those useful rule of thumb numbers to watch out for when you're looking at the weather charts. If you get the 528 across the country, you can be starting to think about snow. So that's where we are in the later part of the week, basically. Low pressure is in charge. It's averaging itself out to some degree on this model, but I think it's the idea of cycles and freeze and thaw, the risk of gales, snow at times over the higher mountains, rain at lower slopes, and maybe some variations from day to day as a fairly unsettled pattern continues through mid-month. So stay up to date with us here at the Mountain Weather Information Service. All the forecasts updated daily on the website every day, and we'll have the video outlook online for you again on Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.